Let's call the meeting to order and stand for the pledge.
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Mr. Brennan.
Honorable Mayor Ron Shaver,
Here.
Councilmember Dan Marlar.
Here.
Doug Shasso.
Here.
Allison Howe.
Present.
Clint Anderson.
Here.
Lisa Northrup.
Here.
Kevin Lindell.
Here. Okay. First on our agenda is presentation and possible action on the appointment of Marcia Fritzler to the Senior Advisory Board. Councilmember Howell.
Your Honor, all the members of the Senior Center Advisory Board were able to review the application and are excited to have them join the team. So I'd like to offer a resolution to appoint Marcia Fritzler to the Senior Center Advisory Board for a 2-year term.
Second?
I have a resolution by Allison Howe and a second by Lisa Northrup. Vote by roll call.
That resolution carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Fort Morgan Fire Department Annual Report. Chief Rasco.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor and City Council. It's my pleasure to be here tonight representing the 32 members of the Fort Morgan Volunteer Fire Department. Tonight I want to present our annual report and highlight a few items for you. Combined city and rural, we responded to 489 calls this year, which is 69 more calls than last year. While we ran more calls, we were able to average at least 8 members responding each call, which shows a lot of dedication by the department. More than half our members responded to greater than 30% of calls throughout the year. This year we logged 1,436 hours of training, which was averaged out at 44 hours of training per member. And there was also 1,540 hours of auxiliary training done by the department. I continue to encourage firefighters to take outside training opportunities, as it is a great way to learn new techniques. This year we had some members get some good training and get certified. DJ Eicher got his paramedic license this year and attended the state EMS conference. Gary Meadows took emergency responder trauma, counselor's basics, peer support, and team member certification, as well as attended the Colorado State Fire Chiefs Leadership Symposium. Landon Willis took his EMT class and passed his national certification to become an EMT basic, and is currently taking his Firefighter 1 and Hazmat Operations class. Carl Kimball and I both took our Firefighter 1 and passed the national certification test, and we're scheduled to start our Hazmat Operations class next month. I also attended a recruitment and retention workshop, tactical extrication course, and incident response to terrorist bombing classes. Troy Getman took ammonia safety days training and process safety management hazardous chemical training. All this additional training helps us make our department stronger and better able to respond to emergencies. I'm excited to see what 2018 brings us. Are there any questions for me?
No, I'm glad to see that the volunteers are taking the additional training, and I know it benefits them as well as it really benefits the city of Fort Morgan. And I'd just like to say that the job that you guys do as first responders for our community is greatly appreciated, and you guys do a phenomenal job. So you can pass that on to all the ones over at the firehouse and let them know that I myself, and I hopefully speak for council, that we appreciate the job and the time and effort that they put in as volunteers.
Thank you.
I'd like to echo what Ron said about
I find the number of training hours that the firefighters have done outside, it's a staggering and amazing number. I mean, these are individuals with full-time jobs. A lot of them are full-time employed, and they're still, really?
I thought we fixed that.
Yeah, they're still taking the
Leaping
time.
out
I
the
know.
words.
Apparently, it doesn't want me to talk. They're still taking the time out of their individual lives to, to do things that are going to benefit the city and themselves. And it's just, that's unheard of in this day and age, that people are, doing that kind of thing. So I think it's just phenomenal.
It shows a lot of dedication, and some of them are doing it to benefit themselves as well as the fire department, and they really enjoy it, and they enjoy being firemen, so it is nice to see. I'd like to bring up John Zink to do the fire marshal part.
Honorable Mayor Ron Shaver and city council members. The following is the 2017 annual report from the Fire Marshal's Office. Fire Prevention Month, along with fire prevention activities, I would like to extend a thank you to the 10 volunteers that helped produce and present our fire safety message to the kids this year. I couldn't have done it without their support and desire to educate the youth in our community. 5 public schools were visited with 7 presentations totaling 1,200 students and staff members. Along with that, 6 additional private schools with 8 presentations totaling 160 students and staff members were also educated this year. Under fire extinguisher training presentations, 7 classes were presented, including Fort Morgan High School, Morgan Community College, Leprino Foods, and City of Fort Morgan with 225 students. 2 major presentations were given, one located at the Fort Morgan Volunteer Fire Department Open House in October. The other was at the City of Brush Safety Days in June, with 250 citizens being educated with hands-on live fire training combined at both events. The fire safety surveys, 200 businesses were inspected with about a 75 compliancy rate on the first inspection, along with RE3 school district, hospital, and nursing home events. Plan reviews and permit process inspections with the chief building official, 18 plan reviews with 158 feasibility forms, interviews, inspections, meeting, field inspections during the entire process, leading to the final inspection along with a certificate of occupancy or compliance letter issued by the Planning and Zoning Department. And under specialty items, 3 residents required assistance with their smoke detector and battery installation. I attended and maintained continuing education that is needed for recertification with the state of Colorado or national certification. Primary locations were the Fire Marshal of Colorado organization and the International Code Council Conference and/or webinars. Sign your fire marshal. Thank you as well. And this was I just completed a 1-year term as your full-timer now, so
Good. Thanks.
thank you.
Appreciate it. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Mark or John? Nope. Hearing none. City manager report, Mr. Wells.
Seeing how we have a long agenda tonight, it's been requested to abbreviate, truncate, or shorten my normal presentation. So we won't go on for 2 hours, but just a few minutes. To start out the annual report this year, I really need to thank, first of all, City Council for your leadership. Second, the directors for their leadership and their support in getting things done. And probably most important are the employees that work for the City of Fort Morgan. On a day-to-day basis, our employees go out and spend a large portion of their life making sure that the citizens of Fort Morgan are taken care of. And I am proud of the many stories that I get back from citizens, from council, and from managers about the way that our employees go above and beyond at times to help our citizens. They truly make Fort Morgan a great place to live, and I really appreciate the things that they do. You've got in your table file my full report, which I won't read verbatim, but I could if you wanted me to. And just want to hit a few highlights in there. You know, some of the things that I focus on as the city manager and that council has really supported me in are 4 specific areas. The first one is fiscal accountability. We can't do anything without money. I often say that the finance department is the heart of the organization because they really pump all the stuff that keeps us going out, which is the money. And they're responsible to make sure that we're accounting for that money, that we're following all of our safeguards to ensure that we can account for that money when we're audited and show where it's been spent, and then also managing our investments as well. So there's a lot that goes into the fiscal accountability aspect. A lot of those decisions that we make on a day-to-day basis are driven by the council and committees. We have a finance or investment committee that meets to assist us in determining where we're going to invest our money. We also bring a lot of our expenses here to the council. In fact, all expenses are cleared through council on one level or another. And so fiscal accountability as well as transparency is extremely important for me. And I think that our community has come to trust what we do with their money as we have worked to make sure we're following the rules that council has in place for us. We also meet the best practices when it comes to accounting, and that's when we have our, we get judged on that annually when we have our auditors come in and they look and make sure that we're following all of the legal guidelines that council sets. But in addition to the legal guidelines, they're also looking at Jeannie and her department's work to make sure that what they're doing also complies with the general acceptable accounting guidelines. I think that's what they're called, right? Oh, it's close. Yeah. She does a great job with that. We'll leave it there. The second thing that we focus on is employee development. As I pointed out earlier, we can't do anything in the city without employees. We are a service organization. We produce services for people, electric, gas, water, wastewater. We're very fortunate in our community to provide nearly all of the services or public services that our citizens need. And that takes a wide range of talent and education, knowledge, skills, and abilities to accomplish on a day-to-day basis. And so we focus a lot on employee development to reach our mission and goal to provide the best customer service and to help develop a community that is open for everybody, that is beautiful, clean, and safe, as it says in our vision statement. The third thing is economic development. Obviously, to have fiscal accountability, you have to have revenues, and revenues based upon economic development. In Colorado, we don't get to just raise taxes whenever we want as a governing body or as a government entity. We have to have that approved by the people. So we focus a lot on expanding our tax base, bringing in new businesses, expanding businesses. And council has invested a lot of money in the last few years, which I believe is coming back full circle as we continue to develop opportunities for businesses that are currently here to develop. We're working really hard to retain businesses here by addressing some of the issues that they're facing for growth and maintaining their workforce, as well as trying to bring in new businesses that can come and thrive in our community and keep some of our money local. One big accomplishment this last year, highlighted later in the report, is the Streets Initiative, where we had a group of citizens respond to the need of addressing the situation with our streets. Unprecedented in Northeast Colorado was the fact that we not only passed a 1% sales tax increase specific for streets, but that is perpetual, that we'll be able to continue to address this problem for as long as we have this problem based upon the revenues that we have coming in. And ultimately, the goal is to fix the problem. And fixing the problem isn't just fixing the bad roads. It's making sure that that infrastructure is sound and maintained forever, so that when people come to town, they roll nice and smooth over the roads. Now, the tire companies may not be happy, May cut down a little bit on that, but, you know, it all evens out with happy smiles in the community. The last thing is community engagement, community development. Trying to create a sense of community in Fort Morgan is extremely important to me, and I know it's extremely important to council. Some of the things you see in the report we've done to really promote our community for our citizens. Who are we? What are we doing here? You know, how do we belong? But Fort Morgan, as we all know, is one of the most diverse populations in the state of Colorado. And we provide services on an educational level, on a county level, on a public safety level, and all the other services to multiple languages, multiple cultures. And I believe council has been very supportive of all people within this community to provide excellent services to all of them. And that's one of the things that we look at when we put together some of these community events, as to bring people out and get to know who's in the community and help people feel a part of the community and become like our community. So with that, just really quick, the first highlight obviously is fiscal management. Are my 3 minutes up?
A while ago.
A while ago? Then I'll keep going. Can I get
I'll
one
flip
more
it over.
turn?
Yeah, I'll give you a couple more.
Our 2016 financial audit came back and demonstrates that we are healthy financially. I believe that's a reflection of the conservative policies developed by council, but also the budgeting management by each department manager as well as the directors and myself. Every year, we spend a lot of time on the budget, and we do that by going through each department one at a time, making sure that they have what they need. They get an opportunity to present to council. You get an opportunity to question them on what they're doing. And we hold the managers accountable, and they're very accountable and responsible for making sure that they're spending the money the way that council wants them to spend the money for the community. And I think it's really a report card. If you look at our audit as a report card, we've been getting some pretty good grades lately. And that's put us in a financial position to leverage some projects that are really important for the community going forward. When we have our retreat next month, we'll be talking about what do we need to do now to continue to move forward in our community to provide facilities, to provide programming and the services that the community needs. I think the big takeaway, if you look at page 2 or the financial highlights, the assets of the city exceed its liabilities and deferred inflows and resources at the close of the most recent fiscal year by $136 million. That's our net position. And then of this amount, $50.7 million of unrestricted net position may be used to meet government ongoing obligations to citizens and creditors. One of the things, to just point that out, we've spent a lot of time, it's highlighted in this report, looking at how we're going to finance NISP, the Northern Integrated Supply Project, our big water storage project in Larimer County. And we, for years in these analyses, were kind of the bottom of the pack from a financial stability or financial capability survey. I'm pleased to say that we're no longer there. And Brent's working on a presentation in probably the next couple of months. We're working through some issues with Northern to get all of the information in front of council and give you a report on where NISP is at. But financially, we're sitting at a pretty good spot from a bonding perspective and what we can do and what our bond rating might be. And so a lot of that has to do with cash on hand. We've been building our reserves in the water fund. We also build reserves in some of our other funds for this specific purpose. The better the bond rating, the less the citizens have to pay in interest. Simple as that. The better your credit score, the better loan you're going to get on your car or your house or whatever it is. And so our credit score has improved dramatically over the last several years. I attribute that to some of the things that council has supported us in. A few years ago, Jeannie assisted in putting together a refinance of the bonds. I think you remember that. We netted savings of over $6 million over the life of the bonds. In addition to that, there was some refinancing that was authorized that came through, I think, with Jeannie a couple years ago with the Colorado Rural Water CWRPD something. Anyways, where our other bond is from. Yeah, Rural Power Development Authority. That's what it is. And lowered that interest rate and lowered that payment. So overall, our plan to move forward with funding with NISP is going forward, and Brent's done an excellent job representing the city at the NISP meetings and making sure that this is moving forward. And we're getting to some critical decisions and points, and we're looking forward to seeing this move forward. But we get there because of the financial stability of the city, the conservative approach to managing the money, budgeting the money, and saving and spending the money that works best for the community. If you look at page 3, just a quick overview, these are unaudited total budget outcome of 2017. We budgeted revenues at $60 million last year, and we came in at about $57 million, so we were under what we had forecasted for our revenues. We came close, but the important thing is the net expenses, because that's one of the things we watch. You don't spend more money than you're making, and if you look at that, our actual expenses were $51 million, with a difference of what we budgeted of $6 million, and then our budget, our total expenses were $59,000. Now, one of the things to look at with that is that we also pull out of reserves from year to year, depending on what projects we're doing, and that goes into that number as well. So utility rates are holding steady. We've talked a lot about that over the last several months. Our enterprise accounts are healthy and doing well, and we continue to work hard with every opportunity we can to lower our rates or maintain our rates at the lowest rate possible for the consumer, and we've been very successful with that. Our total debt in the city, if you look at everything, is somewhere around less than $16 million, and that's on page 4. You look at both of those big loans are from our for the water fund, and then we do have a lease purchase agreement that I think we finished paying off, or we might have one more year. This might have been the last year for a street sweeper, which is $42,000 a year from the general fund. Other than that, we are debt-free in all of our other funds. Although we did authorize a loan from the electric department to the golf department for carts, and that gets paid back to the electric fund on an annual basis through the budget as well. I've put in some pictures. Pictures are fun. Just quickly scan through the pictures and see some of the fun stuff that we do in the city. But some of the initiatives, just to highlight, that we focus on right now are the Innovation Initiative. We spent a lot of time working on that this year. The Safety Initiative, Economic Development is something that we continue to focus on as a priority for City Council. The Broadband Utility, that was a huge success this year. And I want to thank Brent and the Electric Department, Nelson, all of those members of staff that have participated in this long, arduous process to get us to where we're at today. There's still a lot of work to do, and we'll continue that, and hopefully when I'm presenting this next year, we can do it at gigabit speed, meaning I'll be done by now. So. Stormwater Utility continues to move forward in 2018. We'll be bringing that update here in the next meeting or two to council to move forward with that. The repaving projects, I won't go into the 1% sales tax increase, but we are set to present our plan to council, and I think that you're going to like it, and I think the community's going to like it, and it's going to be consistent every year. Long-range planning, what we're always looking at, in finances, we're looking at the water debt. That's kind of our long-term focus. Personal development, exceptional customer service, safety, and innovation continue to be the focus with our personnel, and obviously our policy is to attract and retain the most qualified people for the job. And in that policy, this year will be presenting to council our findings and study on our salary survey, and figure out where we're at in the market to make sure that we're being competitive. Anyways, for 2018, we'll be having a retreat with my staff on the 24th. We'll be having a retreat with council on the second week of February. Is it the 8th? It's the 13th. So I think that's right. Yeah, on the 13th. we'll have a retreat with council to get our budget priorities put together, and we'll continue with a lot of these things into 2018. I see going forward in the city of Fort, I see things going forward in a very positive way. I think 2017, just like the year before that, we always come here and say, man, it's amazing what we can get done in 12 months. And I think we're all a little nervous if we're going to be able to get everything done in the next 12 months that we hope to get done. But we feel pretty positive that 2018 is going to be a stellar year, just like 2017. So again, I want to thank council for your support, direction, and do you have any questions?
Job well done,
I would
Mr. City
just-
Manager.
I'll just say that you have put together a very competent and energetic management team from Jeannie, Susan, Steve. I'm not sure where Ty falls in.
Ty's there too.
Yeah, but I mean, all the way through Brent, Jenny, the chief. We've got a very competent and progressive management team, and John's kind of the glue that holds us all together. So a lot of the things that we get done in the city is all due to the staff and the people that do the work, hit the ground running. So to you all, thank you for what you do, and I'm looking like you forward to 2018, and I think we should have some good times ahead of us.
Well, I have to say, I couldn't do the job that I do without the people behind me and the people that work every day. And I appreciate you acknowledging that. This year's been an interesting year for me, and I can say that I've had a lot of support from these guys, and they've done an excellent job. And I really appreciate what they do. So, thank you.
Next is a presentation and possible action on authorizing the mayor to execute the second interim agreement for increasing the capacity on the Southern Water Supply Project. Mr. Nathan?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. No reports here, just a request for a little bit of money, so.
Find a little bit of money.
Yeah, a little bit,
He
couple
always does.
$100,000. I came to you last fall, or at least I came to mostly everybody last fall, and congratulations, Doug, and welcome aboard. We went ahead and basically executed the necessary documentation to move forward with the next phase of this pump station to give us additional capacity in the pipeline that delivers our water to us. And so what you have in front of you is very similar to the same type of interim agreements that we sign with NISP. It's just a kind of an obligation contract that Northern puts together for everybody that's involved in whatever portion of their enterprise that they're looking at. So I had you approve one a couple of weeks ago that gave us authorization to move forward with our NISP participation and therefore the billing for the year. This is the same thing, but it's very specific just to the pump station and the work that we need to do this year. The list of participants is different than NISP because this is just the people that are attached to the pipeline and would see benefit from the construction of the pump itself. I did receive one question about this. When you look at, I won't get off into the weeds about the engineering into it, but when you look at the allocation of the funds, it seems like the city of Fort Morgan is paying a lot of money compared to some of the other groups, but what we get in the way of additional capacity is smaller than what some of the other groups are getting. And the reason that is the city of Fort Morgan is at the end of a very, very long straw, if you want to look at it. And so when they went to design the pump, or the pumps, there's actually several pumps in the station, we were requesting a lot more horsepower to push the water out here, even though our amount was smaller. And so some of these other groups are getting a little bit of a benefit for the fact that they've got to push water all the way out to us. And so, but it's one of those that in order for us to get the number that we agreed that we wanted to have in the line, we've got to have that size of pump station built. And so that's why our obligation is a little bit greater than, say, like a Longmont. Longmont's getting more capacity, but they're paying just a fraction of what we are. And so, but that's because they're right next to the pump station for all practical purposes. So anyway, just to kind of explain why there's some differences when you dig into those charts and everything, we can talk friction loss and, pump head and all that other stuff, but I won't bore you with any of that. So what you have in front of you tonight is just that second interim agreement on that pipeline, and we're looking for authorization to have the mayor sign it, so. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
It's actually a pretty small number compared to what you usually ask for.
Yes, it is.
Well, we get a huge benefit out of it. We have a big bottleneck around the Fort Lupton area, and this will give us close to 8 CFS, which almost doubles what we
Yes.
have. So that will eliminate the pipeline, and the next thing is going to be, we don't have a reservoir big enough to handle the.
We'll probably get bottlenecked by the treatment facility
Facility.
itself. That's probably our
That will
next.
be the next one. But we have the land purchased for that.
Yeah, so we've got those things in place. We're still looking at a ways out before we reach that bottleneck with the treatment part of it. We definitely saw this last summer that capacity in the pipeline was a concern, and so that's why I came to you this last summer and into fall and requested the permission to go ahead and move forward with this, because it's something that, it's still, like I said before, it's still going to take us a couple of years before we'll even be at a point to where we could use this capacity. So it's kind of important to do it now. This expenditure, when it's all said and done, will be a couple $1 million. We've already started working with our rates consultants on potentially paying that in cash. When Jeff was talking about where the water fund sits, because this is relatively small in the overall scheme of some of the things that we'll be buying with the water fund. So
What does Berthoud and Longmont get out of this?
So what it does is, if you get into the engineering part of it, it frees up some of the friction loss that's happening in the pipe, and so it actually delivers more up to the pump station when you grab that water and push it past that point,
Okay.
in a non-technical answer.
We appreciate that,
Yeah.
the non-technical explanation.
I was just curious why they were in there.
Yeah, they're still in there because, when we pull and move that water down faster past where they actually build it at, they will see benefit on the other side of it.
Okay. Any other questions for Brent? Seeing none, I would entertain a resolution.
Your Honor, I would offer a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute the second interim agreement with Northern Colorado Water Conservancy District, Southern Water Supply Project Water Activity Enterprise for increasing the capacity of the Southern Water Supply Project.
Second?
A resolution by Lisa Northrup and a second by Allison Howe. Vote by roll call.
That resolution carries unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Brent. Next, we have a presentation on accepting a petition for annexation for the Kula property and scheduling a first reading of an annexation ordinance and a zoning ordinance for February 6th. Mr. Glammeyer.
Thank you, and good evening, Mayor, members of the council. What you have in your packet tonight is the first step of really a four-step process to bring land into the city of Fort Morgan. Some of you have done this many times, some of you are new, so the petition was received actually back in April from the Kulas, but we've been working through several items with the potential buyer and developer of the site, and we think most of those have been resolved at this point. We've also been working hard to help process the property through the county subdivision process so that we'd have a lot that was annexable into the city, and that was just recently completed. So we're before you tonight with the petition to bring in just over 8 acres of property. The parcel that's available for development is just over 7, but there is a portion of Platt Avenue that's being annexed in and will be really just dedicated back to CDOT for additional right-of-way for US 34. So this parcel is just north of the industrial park, just north of Industry Drive on the north side of US 34. And the potential development, the FedEx distribution facility, they're working hard to finalize their details and get a lease on this ground or get it purchased or however they're making their process work for them. So we're excited to bring this petition before you tonight. The rest of the process, we'll take this to Planning Commission on Monday for a public hearing, and then you'll see it in first reading, and then a public hearing scheduled before you on February the 20th. And that will finalize the process, and then we just need to record the plat, and then the land will come into the city and be zoned at that point. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. Yes, sir.
Just because of what you brought up, so in this area, the south half of Highway 34 is already annexed into the city, and you just have to do the north half?
I believe that is correct, yeah.
And I think the entire road is.
Yeah, it's just
But with
additional
the
right-of-way.
facility and its needs and demands on traffic flows, et cetera, they're adding additional area for if the road needs to be widened.
Oh,
So the whole road is in the city.
Yep.
so we
to
do
that
it,
point.
because I.
It's additional
noticed the
right-of-way.
annexation
Yep.
that you said you would do all of the county road, and so I didn't know if the state highway, if we just had half of it or what, when you said the difference between the 7 and the 8 point whatever.
Right, yep. It's a 20-foot strip that's being added to the current right-of-way for US 34 that we're annexing in, just a 20-foot strip, the length of the entire Kula parcel, which includes this small 7-acre piece.
Okay.
And this is the piece directly to the west of the John Deere dealership.
That is correct.
Right.
Ooh,
And Bob Kula is here tonight, the owner, and the owner's representative, Kent Lindell's here also, if you have any questions of them. But they just wanted to come and see how this process worked, so.
to help educate me and any citizens who might be watching, so after we approve it tonight, what happens when it goes to the Planning Commission?
It is a public hearing before the Planning Commission. That's been noticed, and so folks can come and speak. The Planning Commission will hear the case and then make a recommendation or denial to the City Council for, approval. Then, again, you'll hear it 2 times in first and second reading. The second reading is a public hearing before this body as well. And then ultimately, your passage of the ordinance will finalize that deal once we have a signed annexation plat.
Thank you.
Yep.
So if I could add, the purpose of tonight is to ensure on a precursory glance that the petition meets the state standards. That's what staff has reviewed, which is why we're recommending it. Then the annexation hearings themselves is to determine whether or not the city actually wants to do this. So the petition for tonight is this application complete and compliant? And then the second part of that, or multiple portions of the process, is to determine if this is in the best interest of the city.
Steve, one other thing, as far as the process goes, we go through all these public hearings, just to bring everybody kind of up to speed. We go through all these public hearings, comes back to council. If it's all approved, ultimately what is developed is an annexation plat, and that property then will come into the city. City will sign the plat. Mr. Kula will sign the plat, and at that point it's recorded, and then that's how we determine what our jurisdictional boundaries are. So when it's all said and done, what you have is a plat that says this is now a part of the city, and we all sign off on it, and it's good to go. So we do actually get something out of the end, a nice piece of paper with everybody's signature.
It takes a while to get there.
It does, but it's important. Yeah.
So this is slightly different than what we normally do.
No, it's the same process you've seen in the
process.
past. Yep.
This is just the annexation request.
Yep.
And then we'll just discuss zoning on the 6th.
Yep, you will discuss zoning and annexation both at that
Okay.
meeting. Yep.
Got it.
We
Thanks.
run those concurrently, so, no, that's a great question. It does have to be zoned as well, so we try to run that process concurrently. Annexation then immediately following the zoning.
Okay.
Any other questions? If not, I would entertain a resolution.
Your Honor, I offer a resolution accepting this petition for annexation of the Kula property and scheduling the first reading of an annexation ordinance and a zoning ordinance for February 6th, 2018.
Second.
A resolution by Allison Howe and a second by Lisa Northrup. Vote by roll call.
That resolution carries unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Steve. Okay, next on the agenda is a public hearing on ordinance 1203, amending the City of Fort Morgan's land use code concerning minor subdivisions. This is a public hearing. Please keep public comments to the issues before City Council. Each speaker is asked to limit comments to 3 minutes unless the speaker represents a group of citizens, in which event additional time may be allocated. Please respect these limitations, and I reserve the right to limit public comment that is inappropriate under these guidelines and otherwise improper. I also reserve the right to limit testimony or questioning that is repetitive, cumulative, argumentative, or not pertinent to the issues, and to set a limit on the duration of testimony if I determine it necessary in the light of number of people who have signed up to testify. First is the issue of legal notice. Mr. Brennan, has the hearing been properly noticed?
Yes, Your Honor, a legal notice of this public hearing and the full text of the proposed ordinance appeared in the Fort Morgan Times on January 5th.
Next is a presentation of the ordinance. Mr. Glanmeyer?
Okay, well, thank you, and good evening again. What you have before you is an ordinance we spoke about at the last regular council meeting, early January. Nothing has changed in the ordinance. We've received no comments to my office regarding the ordinance for or against, so be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Council have any questions regarding the ordinance we previously heard?
Thank you.
Seeing none. Next, we'll hear public comments. Is there anybody that wishes to speak on this issue? Seeing none, I would ask the city clerk if any oral or written comments were submitted to the clerk's office prior to this hearing.
No, Your Honor.
Are there any comments by council? Okay. Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to close or continue the public hearing.
Your Honor, I offer a motion to close this public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion by Allison Howe, a second by Dan Marlar. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Council action, Mr. Myers.
Council's acting in its legislative capacity, so the determination of whether or not to continue on second reading is a matter of whether you believe this is in the best interest of the community. If you believe it is, vote yes. If not, vote no. You can always continue it for another day.
I would entertain a resolution approving or denying the final reading of ordinance 1203.
Your Honor, I offer a resolution approving second and final reading of ordinance number 1203, amending the City of Fort Morgan Land Use Code concerning minor subdivisions and authorized to publish by title only.
Second?
I have a resolution by Lisa Northrup and a second by Allison Howe. Vote by roll call.
That resolution carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Next, we have presentation and discussion on possible direction on the plan for the 2018 Streets Project. Mr. Glanmeyer.
All right, good evening. This is very exciting. As Jeff mentioned, one of the big initiatives we had in 2017 was to see if the voters would like to give us a little extra money to fix some streets, and boy, were we successful in that. Jeff mentioned it was pretty unprecedented not only to get a tax passed for street work, but to have a tax pass that's in perpetuity so that we can really take care of the streets in the city of Fort Morgan forever. And I think that's pretty fantastic. So my staff and myself have spent a lot of time looking at the streets report that we've been provided some time back. And we've met with the utilities department and the work that we anticipate doing to see how it would mesh with what they had. And we also spent some time with Jeff and the city team just looking at that to determine if we were on the right track. And I think what we've presented before you tonight is a great plan to take $2.8 million and fix just a little over 4 miles of streets this year. As you know, we've been historically working on just under a mile of street annually. And so with this additional revenue that we're going to receive, we'll be able to quadruple the amount of work that we're intending to do this year and on into the next. I prepared a small map and put in your packet, so there's a couple of colors. Really what we're looking to do is take some roads and completely rebuild the road according to the streets plan that we have. Some of the roads need to be milled out, the asphalt taken off, and bring in either some subgrade preparation or some other techniques. We're looking at some ways to save a little money, use some of the road that's there, and yet get a good bridge over some of the soft subgrade that we've identified, and stretch the dollars a little if we can. So we're going to look at that. We'll mill the road out, maybe put some material down and pave on top of that. Those roads are in blue on your map. We've hit some pretty high-profile roads that really need some work. Railroad Avenue is one in particular. Also Barlow Road is another one. And one that we hear a lot is 8th Avenue. And so you see those roads are on the list. They were also one of the higher on the list from the program. So I think it meshes with what people are seeing when they're out driving around, meshes with what's reality with the road. We've also got some smaller roads that hit in year one in the program as well. Ensign is one, and we're down in Meng and Gale, so kind of down in the south part of town. Those again are some roads that we'll try to get in there and strip that asphalt off and put new asphalt down. And then the roads in green are intended to get a surface treatment, and the purpose behind that is the road itself is not in bad shape, but a lot of times you need to keep the sun off of it, which is interesting. That binder that holds the rock together is really susceptible to falling apart from UV, and so that's why you want to come in every 5 years and put a surface treatment on top of a road. People don't necessarily understand why you're doing something on a road that was just paved 5 years ago. So I want to highlight that sun can really damage that material. And so we'll come in with a chip seal and cover up that binder that's good and the rock that's good and hide it from the sun, if you will. And then we'll come in and we'll paint it black to protect that binder for at least the next 5 years. And again, these are things that you try to do every 5 years if you can. I think with the money that we have, we'll be able to come in and continue to surface treat roads that we're repaving and surface treat roads that were treated before. And these will keep these roads in good shape, well, forever. And that's the point. So we're pretty excited. 4 miles of roads in the first year. Thanks for funding the sales tax ahead of the money that we're going to receive. That's why we can kick this project off early this year. We've prepared the bid documents, and they are virtually ready to go once we get your approval tonight to sort of move forward with the plan that we've presented, and we're already working on 2019. I mentioned utility work. There's a significant amount of utility work that will occur in Railroad Avenue. That water line is an older water line, and so Brent's crews are going to come in with some help with the contractors and dig that water line up and replace it before we pave, so that we're not back tearing it up right after we pave. Now, there's always a chance something could break, but we're trying to be as proactive as we can. This water crew is also going to be in on 8th Avenue and looking at some valving work to try to get those fixed as well before we pave that section. The rest of the roads, I felt the water lines were in pretty good shape, so we should be okay. We're going to spend all their money for sure. I told Brent I was really sorry. I got a lot of money and he had the same budget, so. But we're making it work, and we're pretty excited to be able to put this together for you. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
You know, I'll just point out before there are any questions with this plan that staff has taken a lot of time and effort to coordinate this so that it works well and is efficient. We use the taxpayers' money as best we can. I want to thank Steve and his team, as well as Brent and his team and people that work together to make sure that we aren't digging up a road after we put it in, or do our best not to. But The plan tonight, I think, comes with a lot of pride and a lot of anticipation based upon the work that council and the staff put together to say, how do we fix this problem? For the last 2 to 3 years, we've heard back from citizens in the community that the number one issue that needs to be addressed is the streets. And I think that the council, the staff, the community should feel proud of the fact that we identified a problem, we looked at alternatives, brought the best solution forward, and it's the solution that we're going with. And this is the result of all that hard work and focus on how do we resolve a problem that the citizens want. And I think it's also a vote of confidence for the council and for our organization that the citizens trust us to do the right thing. And I think this is one of those things that we have put together that demonstrates that we'll be responsive to what the citizens want and we'll do it efficiently and effectively. We will continue to post information on the Strictly for Streets website as we move forward. So when council approves this, it will go onto our Strictly for Streets website so the community can go on and see what we're doing. And we'll update that website regularly as we go through the process so that if the community is interested on what are we doing with their money, we'll be very open and transparent. Here's where your money's going. These are the projects that we're doing, and people can access that online.
And that's a great point. I'm glad Jeff brought that up. It reminded me that the other thing we intend to do is get some signs and post those out on the job when we're out working. I think CDOT does a good job of this. Your faster money at work, your tax, we're going to put signs out there saying this is your Strictly for Streets money at work, and so that people can understand that, this is what they voted for, and really highlight that throughout the community. And I think that's important.
So is the money we're using on this will come from our HUF funds and?
Yep, that's a great question. We have $2.8 million in total. This plan is about $2.7 million. We've held a little back for some ADA work. We have a small amount of that to do concrete work, and a small amount for contingency in case we run into something, that we didn't expect, soft subsoil or something that we can't just fix with some fabric or something. And if we have to, we'll shorten up a project if we run into something really significant, or look to reserves, one or the other. But this will spend the full $2.8 million that you have, the $900,000 we've been spending historically, and the $1.9 million that we're anticipating from the tax that we've budgeted.
Good plan.
2 questions. First, where we're doing Barlow, Riverview, and 8th, I'm assuming that's going to be a staggered, otherwise you will completely inhibit everybody's potential path to Walmart.
Yep. Yeah. Well, to help with that, and that's a great question, 8th Avenue and Barlow are mill and overlays, and Riverview is a chip seal, so it's definitely 2 different contractors, 2 different types of project, but certainly we'll work around the traffic patterns and recognizing that, those are major thoroughfares to some big development, some of the Walmart and the other stores. And so we'll make sure that we get folks around and stagger those.
And then my second question is, so we have a couple of streets that we've had to, for lack of a better word, tear up due to unfortunate water events. Are we looking to do anything over top of those, or is that that's not a major overlay? We're going to go through and...
We'll patch them, and then at some point, I think the road that's on the list for next year already, as I've started to look at it, is Sherman. And we've had some areas there that we need to do, that we've had some water line work and some others. So, but for now, we're just intending to use the money that we have for maintenance just for patching, and we'll come in and patch those spots until we can get in and actually fix the road permanently.
And we patch when it's not
Yes.
not winter, correct?
Yep.
Thank you.
You bet. Good questions.
Go ahead, Dan.
I really like this plan.
Thank
you for all the thought and time that you put into it. I think you're covering the really busy areas, or some of the really busy areas in the city, and you're doing pieces all over the city. I think our taxpayers are going to see what's happening immediately. And so, good call, good work. Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Do we have a start date, like an idea? Like,
Well, my hope is that we could get started early spring, May would be the plan. That's why I have the bid documents ready to go. I want to get in ahead of anybody else's projects if I can. I'll be down at the, I've been asked to speak about our tax initiative at the asphalt conference this year in February. So I'm going to be drumming up any contractor I see to come and work for us here. I'm going to be telling them we've got, almost $3 million we'd like to see them come and get a piece of. So I'll be talking it up, try to get everybody up here and let them know it's coming. So if we can get it early May, that'd be great.
Awesome. So on a note that's just in the future, or 2019, I guess, is there a potential that we could look at kind of combining everything with what the county would do, the city of Brush, and work collaboratively? I think we'd all get a more bang for our buck if we could get a contractor that can mobilize in this area, split the mobilization cost, and utilize those funds. And I'm just a thought on
Nope,
that.
it's a great thought. And I'll tell you that I was at a meeting last week at CDOT in Greeley, and they are intending to overlay US 34 from Brush to the Clarion next year. And so City of Brush was there, and we all had a conversation about how much work we were all going to have in 2019 as well. So I think we're collaborating with CDOT, Brush. We've got work at the airport we're going to be doing as well, and another 4 miles of streets here. I think we are ripe for a very big project next year. Probably somebody bringing up a batch plant, setting that up either in Fort Morgan or somewhere near, and getting a very good price on product, at least for 2019, for sure. So we've started that conversation.
Very good.
Yep.
Anybody else have anything for Steve? Well, from the sounds of it, your direction is made.
All
Good
right.
job.
We will get started. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah.
Next on the Glammeyer Show,
Right?
That is the
Get tired of me yet?
update on the stormwater utility.
Well, Jeff said in his report that we would present on this in a couple of weeks, and since his report
was
was so
wrong.
long, I went ahead and prepared it for you tonight. So I'll just bring, I'll
I was
bring
going
that
to say
forward.
That was
something.
really fast.
No, thank you.
Prepared it while we were looking at it.
Well, one more item that was on my agenda when I started here was that you all had been discussing a stormwater utility fund for the city of Fort Morgan, and a lot of the groundwork had been laid. And then there was a request to come back to this body and give an update on where we're at. So what I can report is you all saw several scenarios December 20th, 2016. Asked staff to work toward implementation in 2017. Then when we decided to go forth with a streets tax, we decided we would wait and to see how that outcome would affect this or not. We were successful in that street tax, as we've just discussed, and so we're back with the plan that you've seen back in 2016, late 2016. And really nothing has changed from the methodology that you were presented at that meeting. I prepared and copied the chart for your packet, and what you see is that everything's based on the residential rate. And so the effort is to raise about $300,000 annually, and we've estimated that with a residential rate of $5 a month, everything else based accordingly, that you would get $300,000 annually, 12 calendar months. So we're ready to move forward with implementation. The thought would be that we would transfer $200,000 out of the general fund to supplement the $300,000 and have $500,000 to spend annually on stormwater improvements and upgrades. If we can take those dollars and leverage them, we've talked to the Colorado Department of Local Affairs, and they would be pleased to see us adopt a stormwater utility, because they really don't want to fund stormwater improvements with their grants unless you have a stormwater utility and show that you've got some mechanism to fund the match. So we've met with Greg Edel at DOLA and told him we were looking to move forward. He was pleased with that and excited to start accepting applications from the city of Fort Morgan on stormwater projects if we had this passed. So I bring this back to you for your consideration and just conversation on the direction that you'd like to proceed.
And just a little more background on that $200,000 transfer. Currently, stormwater maintenance is done out of the streets department. And so the street sweeping is a function of stormwater. Some of the pipe repairs when we have a collapse or have to add new stuff comes out of there. So that $200,000 is already being spent and will continue to be spent out of the streets department. But because this will be an enterprise, we will have to recognize that as a transfer from the general fund over into the sewer and stormwater fund. To create this moving forward, there's going to be some legal issues, and I'll let Jason kind of speak to that. But this is, last time we met, council was fine and happy with how we had come up with the process for determining what the fees would be, and all we had to do was plug in some numbers. These numbers can be modified. You can say we want less or more, but we were looking at that target number of $500,000 a year with the $200,000 transfer from the general fund, which puts us in a position to leverage grant money. What we're looking at also in the next couple of years, which is really important to the overall studies that have been done and designs that have been done, is that CDOT is going to be making some changes at I-76. If you recall, we partnered with them. They put in a really large stretch of stormwater from the river up to just under the highway, to right under the highway. When they come in and redo I-76, there's an opportunity for us to upgrade and fix some of our stormwater in that area. We're going to want to partner with them while they've got the ground open, while they're doing some of their work in there, so that we can all take advantage of that. Ultimately, we want to go down from our problem area. Everybody knows over on Ensign and 6th, or Ensign and 7th, 8th,
Yeah.
7th, anyways, down over there. We've got the infrastructure set up to take water and continue north on Ensign and then down Riverview and then tie in over in that area. But all these things are going to come together in pieces, and we want to be ready for that. So we need to start collecting that revenue. It all depends on how aggressive council wants to be with that. We felt like, based upon a lot of the information that we got back from different surveys a few years ago, this was a manageable number for most people and thought it was reasonable. But again, that's council's decision on what you want to do. Once you set what the number should be, then we will do the legal work, we'll do some of the finance department work on utility billing, get it all put together, and then bring it back for another report on where everything's at. So Jason, I don't know if you want to cover some of the legal issues and things that need to take place.
One of the considerations, and I know this was brought up previously, but where would this utility live as far as what fund would it be attached to? Because Taxpayer Bill of Rights, TABOR, prevents us as a governmental entity from subsidizing or over-subsidizing an enterprise, and so that cap is 10%. Obviously, $200,000 transfer, if the fund is only $500,000, that's well over 10%. So this would likely be something, if we're taking that approach, to be located within the sewer fund. So the sewer fund as a whole is what you would look at for those TABOR purposes. I know the ordinances will need to be drafted and otherwise, and I think we've got a lot of that language ready to go as well to make this its own department within that utility.
So you mentioned Ensign. Is the portion we're talking about, because I'm assuming we would be tearing up the road in order to do this. So that's not the part that we're paving?
No.
No.
I asked that question immediately. I was like,
Stayed away
this
from that
isn't
intersection.
part.
Just wanted to be sure.
It's a great question.
Yep.
Great question.
I had faith in you. How do you define and establish high-density residential?
That is all of the R3, R4 areas. It's the multi-family type residential. Sol Naciente is an example of what would be high residential.
Which would be different than a duplex.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions for Steve before we let him go?
I'm having so much fun up here.
Did a good job.
Thank you.
So,
Okay, well, thank you very much.
thank you, Steve. Appreciate your efforts.
Yep, yep, yep.
So we'll move forward with that and bring the final, we'll bring ordinances back to council. We'll bring a series of next steps, but we just want to make sure you're good with the numbers, and we'll go forward with it. All right.
Next on the agenda is our consent agenda by resolution. Mr. Brennan.
Thank you, Your Honor. Tonight's consent agenda includes item A, approval of the disbursements and payroll for December, and item B, approval of the minutes of the January 9th, 2018 City Council special meeting. All matters listed on the consent agenda are considered routine business by the council and will be enacted with a single motion and a single vote by roll call. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If discussion is deemed necessary, that item should be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately.
Has everybody reviewed the consent agenda?
Yeah,
If so, I would entertain a resolution accepting the consent agenda as presented.
Your Honor, I offer a resolution to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
A resolution by Allison Howe, and second by Dan Marlar. Vote by roll call.
That resolution carries unanimously.
Next is public comments and audience participation for anything not on the agenda. Susan?
We have audience.
Hi, City Council. My name is Paul Benny Bergio, and I'm one of the reporters for the Fort Morgan Times. Hopefully, you guys all read that. And I'm just going to be taking over covering you guys, so I just wanted to come up, introduce myself, say I'm excited to do it. I've been covering the City Council in Brush for a few months, and I've done the county commissioners and a little bit with the Wiggins Board of Trustees, so I'm not totally new to this or anything. But yeah, I'm looking forward to talking to you guys probably on a pretty regular basis and just seeing what all you guys do here. I live in the community, so I'm excited to be a part of this beat. Thanks.
Well, thanks.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Hopefully we won't be as exciting as some of the others.
That's exciting for the newspaper, though.
Moving on. Reports by officials and staff. Mr. Wells.
Thank you, Your Honor. One of the things I wanted to point out to council was we're going to start tours, and tours are so fun. It's like vacation. We go around and we visit all the different departments, and we're going to start that the second council meeting in February. So that would be on February 20th. Will be our first day of department visits. Oh boy, everybody's giving me the.
No, I was shaking my head at her.
Oh, okay. So
I'm happy. I'm excited.
okay.
I'm
So-
just thinking about how much time I'm taking off.
Yeah, February 20th. So what we normally do is start around 4 o'clock. Again, it's up to council to decide when you want to do this. We have a schedule that we'll bring to council first meeting in February to kind of go over these are the departments we're going to hit and when we're going to hit them. We'll go to each of those departments and have presentations where you get to meet all the different villagers, on vacation. You see who's in each department and what they do. And as it gets warmer, we go to more tropic climes. We go out to the golf course in April. That's usually where we end. But it's a lot of fun, and I think the employees appreciate it to be able to talk about what they do and let council know what they do, and I know council appreciates it. So the first question is, everybody up for a fun adventure in visiting departments?
Yes.
Very good.
I'm thinking maybe you need to get out more if this is your definition of fun. I'm not saying that it can't be enjoyed, but fun would not be how I'd label it. I mean, well, other than finances are fun, so it might fit in that same fun category.
This is absolutely fun. This is the best time.
So it will be an experience. Yeah, it will be an experience. So is 4 o'clock too early?
I can't do earlier, but yeah.
4:15?
Ish would be better.
4:15-ish? Everybody good with that? Okay. We'll start these at 4:15, and what we'll do is we'll either meet at the department where we start, or usually what we do is we meet at City Hall, drop everything off for the meeting, We go visit our departments for the day, come back here, start the meeting at 6 o'clock. So really looking forward to that. Did anybody else have any, Chief?
Well, today, excuse me, today was our first session of our new youth outreach program with the high school students, and we met at the medical center. We had 14 kids, and it's a program where we're trying to bridge the gap between kids and cops is what we're calling it. And it's a 6-hour program, and we're going to try to do this once a quarter. And it's a good partnership with the school district, and it went very well.
How do the students, is it a referral process or?
Referral by the school district.
Okay, cool. Do they get school credit, Clint?
It was an excused field trip. It was a field trip.
Field trip, sweet. That's exciting, Chief.
Anybody else have anything? Well, one of the things we want to point out to our citizens, we haven't, we've seen this in the community, is when it gets really cold, like it has the last few days, water pipes like to freeze. Some of the things that you can do to avoid that is obviously open up your cupboards underneath your sinks and make sure that there's heat circulating there, or you can let your water drip. But, you know, sometimes when those things happen, there's an ask of the city as to why their pipes are freezing, and generally it's not our fault that they freeze. They just get cold and freeze in your house. So that's one of the things to watch out for. Anyways, with that, I think that's any questions or any concerns that have come up?
I wanted to give a quick update about the Trails Master Planning Group. So a long time ago when Josh Miller was still with us, he wrote a grant to work with an engineering group, and we gave the contract to the SE group. So I've been working with this group. We met in October and had fun with lots of maps and talked about different priorities with safety routes to schools and parks, to the library, to the hospital, Walmart, just different places that were most important for pedestrians and bicycles. And yeah, super fun group. I think, Steve-O, were you there? You weren't? Oh, anyway, it was a party. So we're meeting again next month to review their kind of plans based on that feedback that we gave them from that first meeting in October. And we discussed, our first priority is just citizens, and then our second priority is guests to the city and helping guests find their way to downtown and find their way to other business districts. So do you guys have any questions about the master planning, the Trails Master Planning Group?
What are we hoping that this master plan will lead to? Exactly.
Another grant for more money to implement the plan. So just, better sidewalks, just prettier and safer ways to get to different places. So
Are there certain areas that are a priority over others?
definitely.
Or two?
Well, and I think that that's part of the master plan process, is to figure out what's feasible and what meets the overall needs of the community. And like Councilmember Howe said, what we're looking at is this will leverage grants to do some things probably in Riverside Park North, where we can add some trails. But it also is a planning tool for us. When we go around and we're planning streets and we're looking at, okay, what are we doing? Is this a street that needs a bike lane? And if so, are we, putting the right treatments on that street? Are we striping it correctly? Is that something we've got to look at in the future? So it's a planning tool as much as an opportunity to also leverage further grants for development of trails. Because really it's kind of a transportation plan for pedestrians as well as bikers, bicyclers through the community. And it helps the Streets Department and Public Works as well as the Parks Department in what they do to make access available for these modes of transportation.
And there's grant funding available with safe routes to school, so this will definitely help with just identifying those best ways to get to those schools. One of the big conversation points in the meeting was finding a safe way to get over the railroad tracks, just connecting the north and south sides of town. So, what would a cool bridge look like for pedestrians and bicycles over, and where would it be? So,
Would it include any information or anything as far as safe pedestrian travel to Walmart?
We definitely talked a lot about Walmart, and if we would need to collaborate with the county on something.
Well, and there's some things that we're looking at. Obviously, that's something that comes up regularly. There's a couple of issues down there, obviously lighting and no sidewalks in that area. Some of the things that we have to look at long-term with pedestrian things that goes, again, to planning is that you've got a bridge down there that's too narrow to put in anything more than the 2 lanes of traffic that are there. So there's infrastructure planning that has to go into this, but it is definitely something that would be considered as part of the overall flow of traffic.
And definitely safe routes to, I mean, we have not just Walmart, I mean, we always talk about Walmart, but we have students that might be able to make their way to MCC, that might be able to, use foot traffic if 8th or Railroad were a little safer.
Yeah, we talked a lot about Barlow, and so it'll be really exciting. So I'll have more to report to you in February.
Thank you.
Any other reports? No? Seeing none, bids, meetings, and announcements. Mr. Brennan.
Thank you, Your Honor. It's that time of year, so we've got loads of bids that I'm just going to run through as quickly as possible. The city is accepting bids for electrical conductors until 2:45 p.m. on January 18th, electric distribution wood poles until 2:45 p.m. on January 18th, water main line insta-valves until 2:45 p.m. on January 18th, census water meters until 3 p.m. on January 18th, Itron 100-watt water encoder receiver transmitters, also known as ERTs, until 3 p.m. on January 18th. Fire hydrants, water valves, and pipe until 3 p.m. on January 18th. Engineering and surveying services for road design for the extension of State Street north of Riverview until 4 p.m. on January 19th. Streets building wall and roof repair project until 3 p.m. on January 24th. 2 police patrol vehicles until 3 p.m. on January 25th. Pole-mounted transformers until 2:45 p.m. on January 30th. Pad-mounted transformers until 2:45 p.m. on January 30th. And 2018 on-call concrete installation services until 3 p.m. on February 1st. Under meetings, the Planning Commission will meet next Monday, the 22nd at 4:30 p.m. here at City Hall. The Museum Heritage Foundation will meet on the 25th at 4 p.m. at the museum. On Friday, the 26th, there will be the all-city employee meeting from 3 to 5 p.m., so most city offices will be closing at 3 p.m. that day. And the next City Council regular meeting will be February 6th at 6 p.m. here at City Hall.
What was the date of the city meeting?
26th.
26.
We'll just sit here in silence since Clint's probably wanted to go home.
I'm
Is
here
there
till
anything
whenever.
else to come before council? Seeing none, meeting's adjourned.